Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Prajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Bad, Paramahansa, Padavita Acharya, Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Jai Om Vishnu Pad, Paramahansa, Padavita Acharya, Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai, Nectar of Instruction Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. So I got to mess with this garland because the string tends to show after a while, you know. But I was on Dandabats. I don't know if you know that. Like they have a main, you know. And then the garland looked kind of funky because it had a big string. Yeah. But then what really struck me was when they panned the audience, and it was like our usual, like 3 or 4, you know. But there was the last Bhagavatam class. Rasayana. It was Bhakti Mahoprabhu, how he's just wanting to have the association of devotees in his hearts. The Bhakti is flowing like a river. I didn't expect to see it. I got on it. Wait a minute, that's me. Hare Krishna. It won't happen for another 2 years. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 28th day of January 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from the Sri Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction, originally by Srila Rupa Goswami and with translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we have come to the penultimate verse. You know that word? Penultimate one? The next to last. The next penultimate. The next to last, which is text 10. And I hope you can see that. Can you see it? You want a device? You're okay? Okay. All right, maybe we'll do we'll go through word for word. Karmibhya padito hare priyataya vyaktim yajur jnaninas tebhyo jnanavimukta bhakti padama premaika nishtas tataha tebhyas tha pashupala pankajadrishas thabhyo api sararika preshta tadvadiyam tadiya sadasi tham nashrayet kakuti karmibhyak padito hare piyate ya vyaktim hyayo yaninas tebhyo jnanava mukta bhakti padama premaika nishtas tatha tebhyastha pashupala pankajadushasthabhyo pisaradika Vreshta tanvadiyam tadiya sadasi tam nashrayet kapkuti. Karmibhyak padito hare priyate ya vyaktim hyayo yaninas. Jnaninas. Tebhyo jnanava mukta bhakti padama premaika nishtas tataha. Tebhyastha pashupala pankajadrishasthabhyo pisaradika. Vreshta tandadiyam tadiya sadasi tam nashrayet kakuti. Chat. Karmibhyak padito hare priyate ya vyaktim hyayo jnaninas. Tebhyo jnanava mukta bhakti padama premaika nishtas tataha. Tebhyastha pashupala pankajadushasthabhyo pisaradika. Preshta tanvadiyam tadiya sadasi tam nashrayet kakriti. Karmibhyak padito hare priyate ya vyaktim hyayo jnaninas. Tebhyo jnanava mukta bhakti padama premaika nishtas tataha. Tebhyastha pashupala pankajadushasthabhyo pisaradika. Preshta tadvadiyam tadiya sadasi tam nashrayet kakriti. Karmibhyak padito hare priyate ya vyaktim hyayo jnaninas. Tebhyo jnanava mukta bhakti padama premaika nishtas tataha. Tebhyasta Pashupala Pankajadvishastabhyo Pisaradika Preshta Tanvadiham Tadiya Sadasi Tam Nashrayet Kakriti Karmibhyaha. Then all fruitive workers, Paritaha, in all respects, Hare, by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Priyataya, because of being favored, Vyaktim Yayuhu, it is said in the Shastra, Jnaninaha, those advanced in knowledge, Tebhyaha, superior to them, Jnana Vimukta, liberated by knowledge, Bhakti Padamaha, those engaged in devotional service, Prema Ekanishtaha, those who have attained pure love of God, Tataha, superior to them, Tebhyaha, better than them, Taha, they, Pashupala Pankajadrishaha, the gopis who are always dependent on Krishna, the cowherd boy, Tabhyaha, above all of them, Api, certainly, Sa, she, Radhika, Srimati Radhika, Preshta, very dear, Tadvat, similarly, Iyam, this, Tadiya Sadasi, her lake Sri Radhakund, Tam, Radhakunda, Na, not, Ashrayet, would take shelter of, Kaha, who, Kriti, most fortunate. Translation. In the Shastra, it is said that of all types of fruitive workers, he who is advanced in knowledge of the higher values of life is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. Out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, Gyanis, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge may take to devotional service. He is superior to the others. However, one who has actually attained prema, pure love of Krishna, is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Sri Krishna, the transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Her kunda or lake is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as the most beloved of the gopis. Who then will not reside at Radhakund and in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, a prakrita bhava, render loving service to the divine couple, Sri Sri Radha Govinda, who perform their Ashtakaliya Leela, their eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radhakund are the most fortunate people in the universe. At the present moment, almost everyone is engaged in some kind of fruitive activity. Those who are desirous of gaining material profits by working are called karmis, or fruitive workers. All living entities within this material world have come under the spell of Maya. This is described in the Vishnu Purana 6.7.61. Also you say, Vishnu Shakti Paraprokta Chaitragyakya Tatapara Avidya Karma Sanganya Tritiya Shaktirishyate. Sages have divided the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead into three categories, namely the spiritual energy, marginal energy, and material energy. The material energy is considered to be the third-class energy, Tritiya Shakti. Those living beings within the jurisdiction of the material energy sometimes engage themselves like dogs and hogs in working very hard simply for sense gratification. However, in this life, or after executing pious activities, in the next life, some karmis become strongly attracted to performing various kinds of sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. Thus, on the strength of their pious merit, they are elevated to heavenly planets. Actually, those who perform sacrifices strictly according to Vedic injunctions are elevated to the moon and planets above the moon. As mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita 9.21, Chine punye marchalokam vishanti. After exhausting the results of their so-called pious activities, they again return to the earth, which is called Martyaloka, the place of death. Although such persons may be elevated to the heavenly planets by their pious activities, and although they may enjoy life there for many thousands of years, they nonetheless must return to this planet when the results of their pious activities are exhausted. This is the position of all karmis, including those who act piously and those who act impiously. On this planet, we find many businessmen, politicians, and others who are simply interested in material happiness. They attempt to earn money by all means, not considering whether such means are pious or impious. Such people are called karmis or gross materialists. Among the karmis are some vikarmis, people who act without the guidance of Vedic knowledge. Those who act on the basis of Vedic knowledge perform sacrifices for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu and to receive benedictions from him. In this way, they are elevated to higher planetary systems. Such karmis are superior to the vikarmis, for they are faithful to the directions of the Vedas and are certainly dear to Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.11, Krishna says, Ye yatamam papadyante, talang sataiva bhajamiham. In whatever way one surrenders unto me, I reward him accordingly. Krishna is so kind that he fulfills the desires of the karmis and the jnanis, not to speak of the bhaktas. Although the karmis are sometimes elevated to higher planetary systems, as long as they remain attached to fruitive activities, they must accept new material bodies after death. If one acts piously, he can attain a new body among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, or he may attain some other position in which he can enjoy a higher standard of material happiness. On the other hand, those who are engaged in impious activities, it's going to be impious. I can't do it. On the other hand, those who are engaged in impious activities are degraded and take birth as animals, trees, and plants. Thus, those fruitive actors who do not care for the Vedic directions, vikarmis, are not appreciated by learned saintly persons. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.4, also you see, Nunam pramattak kudate vikarma Yarindriya pritaya aprinoti Nasadhu manye yata atmanoyam Asannapi kleshada asadeha. Materialists who work hard like dogs and hogs simply for sense gratification are actually mad. They simply perform all kinds of abominable activities simply for sense gratification. Materialistic activities are not at all worthy of an intelligent man, for as a result of such activities, one gets a material body which is full of misery. The purpose of human life is to get out of the threefold miserable conditions which are concomitant with material existence. Unfortunately, fruitive workers are mad to earn money and acquire temporary material comforts by all means. Therefore, they risk being degraded to lower species of life. Materialists foolishly make many plans to become happy in this material world. They do not stop to consider that they will live only for a certain number of years, out of which they must spend the major portion acquiring money for sense gratification. Ultimately, such activities end in death. Materialists do not consider that after giving up the body, they may become embodied as lower animals, plants, or trees. Thus, all their activities simply defeat the purpose of life. Not only are they born ignorant, but they act on the platform of ignorance, thinking that they are getting material benefits in the shape of skyscraper buildings, big cars, honorable positions, and so on. The materialists do not know that in the next life they will be degraded, and that all their activities simply serve as parabhava, their defeat. This is the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.5. Parabhavastavada bodhajata. Okay. Om jnana timirandasya jnananjana salakaya chakshu unmidatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes to the torch of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of the Sri Parampara. So, this is the second to last verse, and Rupa Goswami is glorifying Radhakund, but he's beginning with this classic example of starting with the lowest rung Just like when Lord Chaitanya taught Rupa Goswami, he began like that. He said, among all human beings, there's 400,000, only 400,000 species of human beings, but among them, there's only a few that are regulated by Vedic injunction. Among them, there's only a few who really try for perfection. Among them, there's only like that. Until you come down to the great rarity of devotees. So he's doing a similar thing here. He starts out with all fruitive workers. And that's really what Prabhupada is talking about in most of his beginning here of this purport. One of those fruitive workers who is advanced in knowledge of higher bounds of life is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. Now, why would he be favored? Because in their fruitive activity, they're realizing the need for some sacrifice. This comes up in the Bhagavad Gita. If you're simply engaged in sense gratification without performing any sacrifice, then the demigods will punish you. Because sacrifice in that context, in the 3rd chapter, means offering something to the gods, recognizing the higher authorities, recognizing where all of the things that we need come from. I just heard Prabhupada give a lecture on that beginning of the 3rd chapter. That's, annad bhavanti bhutani parjanyarana sambhava. Is that just to eat, we require grains. And grains depend on rains, and rains depend on sacrifice. The sacrifice is within the Vedas. And so the ultimate, we have to go to the Vedas to find out the directions of things, and ultimately you come to Krishna. But even if you just want to live a prosperous life, we're born into this world as debtors. Devashi bhutato nirnam patrinam. There's a verse like that. We take it for granted. The sun is coming up, and it's providing so much warmth and so much essential support. The waters, the rain is falling, the air is breathable, the food is not contaminated, and requires so much arrangement and help from others to just for us to live. But one who just takes these things without offering in sacrifice and without following any rules and regulations is a thief. And you get punished by the laws of nature. That's mentioned right in the Bhagavad Gita. So, a karmi, in this context, means someone who is fruitive worker, but he's following the Vedic injunctions. Otherwise, you become a vikarmi, as Prabhupada mentions here. And as we learned from Rishabdev in his famous verse near the beginning of the 5th chapter of the 5th canto, Nunam pramatta kurate vikarma yadindriya pritaya apanoti. Certainly those who are simply performing all kinds of vicious activities without reference to any of the restrictions of the Vedas, on the basis of motivated by desire for sense gratification, they're mad. Because such activity is sure to bring extreme suffering by getting another material body. And in the case of the karma, it probably means a subhuman body. So that's not going to help us in the long run. And yet, those who are in the modes of passion and ignorance can't help themselves. They're under the spell. Prabhupada uses this word, it's a perfect word, the spell of the material energy. If you're under a spell, you've lost control of your mind. You can't really act for your own best interests because you're controlled by some grand illusion or something like that. You're under a spell. So Maya does that. It gives us this spell. And practically every day I'm reading articles now about the impending collapse of all the ecosystems and everything that we depend on. It's going faster and faster. It's practically too late. We have to just prepare for the civilization has to prepare for doom. What are we going to do? Now devotees, you learn that from day one. So it doesn't matter what civilization is going to do. We ourselves are personally doomed. And what are we going to do about it? Well, that's just a natural course of events. When I'm gone, I'm gone. No, you're not. That's the first thing you learn, is that there is a future even beyond death, beyond birth and death. That's our little book that we passed out. I'm sure 100 million of them already. But the point is that we have to use our intelligence to try to improve our lives to the greatest extent. That's what these little 11 shlokas are all about. They're basically meant for devotees who are thinking themselves they want to be serious. And it gives the do's and the don'ts and then how to relate to others. And now it's giving in the last few verses here, after one has come to the point of the 8th verse, if you accept the essence of all advice, which is to spend all of your time
hearing and chanting. Is tan nama rupa charitadu sukirtananu smityo kamena rasanama nasiniyoja. Tan refers to Krishna. His name, his form, his activities. Sukirtananu, one should chant them very nicely and sweetly. Tan nama rupa charitadu sukirtananu smityo kamena, and thus chanting and hearing one will remember. Manasam rasanama nasiniyoja, engaging the tongue and the mind. And by chanting, and of course hearing, this doesn't mean the physical thing, it means that listening and absorbing one's mind, and then you're bound to remember. Rasanama nasi niyoja. And in this way, or physically, to live in Vrindavan, tistan bhaje tananuragi jananugami, follow in the footsteps of someone who's already attained raga, attraction for Krishna, and this way follow raganuga bhakti, which is what Rupa Goswami ultimately teaches. And this is the essence of all advice. Well, now he's giving details how to follow that advice. He's speaking about, well, where's the best place to do this? Why is Radhakund so exalted? And that's what this is all about. Ultimately, to really understand these latter parts of these verses in more detail, you read, say, the chapter 8 of the Madhya Lila, which is the conversation with Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya. And he talks about the highest levels of bhakti, which is to become absorbed in Krishna and Krishna's pastimes, and eventually to feel the awakening of one's original rasa with Krishna, and to pursue that by following in the footsteps of one devotee who's already in that lila. But Prabhupada, he chooses here to focus on the first word for most of the purport we've read so far. So let's follow in his footsteps here. First, he defines the karmis, those who want to gain material profit. Now, the karmis here is in the broadest sense, includes vikarmis, those who are fruitive but are performing vicious activity, as well as those who are following the Vedas, but their motivation is material. Then he quotes this verse from the Vishnu Purana, which is also quoted, as you see there, in the Madhya Lila of the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Vishnu Shakti Paraprokta. Now there he's saying that Vishnu's personal Shaktis are all transcendental. And that includes, we're also within the transcendental energies. Chaitra Gya Akya. There's different ways of designating the living entity, the Jiva Shakti. Tatastha Shakti means on the margin between spiritual and material, or it can go either way. Or this one is the Chaitra Gya, which comes right out of the 13th chapter, Bhagavad Gita, right? The knower of the field. We're the knower of this field. So we're also by nature transcendental. In other words, we don't actually mix with this material world, but due to the spell of Maya, we fully identify with it. But there's this nice little phrase, one of these Upanishadic phrases, asango yayam purushaha. Asanga means attached or associated with. The purushaha, in this case the jiva, is not in truth associated with the material energy. We don't mix with it. But because of the spell of Maya, we fully identify with it. That's the material disease. And that avidya energy, this external energy, engages us in karmic activities. The ignorance engages us in the karmic activity. Avidya karma sangyanya tritiya shakti rishite. These are the threefold energies of the Lord: internal, marginal, and external. Spiritual, then Prabhupada mentions that. So then, and following Rishabdev, he's going to quote from Rishabdev, they engage themselves like dogs and hogs and working very hard for sense gratification. That's right out of the first verse. Nayam deho deha bhajangalokte kashtan kaman anhate vidbhujanye. Certainly those who have attained the human form of life should not waste by working very hard. That's where the kashtam comes in. Very hard for sense gratification, which is on the level of the stool-eating hogs. Literally uses vidbhujanye, stool-eating hogs. So what's the alternative? Tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam shudyed. That one should purify one's existence. What a contrast to the stool-eating hogs. Purify one's existence by performing austerities under the guidance of a transcendentalist, so that it's divyam, tapo divyam, dear sons, putrakai. And by that austerity, you will purify your existence. And by that purified existence, you will become eligible to, who remembers the conclusion of the verse? Taste? Transcendental bliss, transcendental happiness. Brahma Sukha instead of Maya Sukha. That's the choice we have. But in order to be able to experience the Brahma Sukha, one has to decondition oneself. I haven't heard that. Decondition. We're conditioned souls. But purify one's mind, senses, existence, so that the natural sweetness of Krishna's name, form, and qualities becomes evident to us. This all fits in, you see, because that's what he's talking about, how one, by hearing and chanting, the very senses which tasted all as bitter finally tasted as sweet, which is the actual nature of all this Krishna Katha. But here the karmis, they have no idea. They simply work hard for sense gratification, life after life. But there are some karmis who are not vikarmis, who become strongly attracted to performing various kinds of sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. And therefore they get some pious credit, merit, they go up to the heavenly planets, elevated to the moon, Prabhupada says. But, according to Bhagavad Gita, chine punya martya lokam pashanti. Then they spend their merit, because on the moon, you figure, oh, now I've made it to heaven. Now you're not performing sacrifices anymore. Now you're enjoying the fruit. So you're spending the punya, you're giving it up, it's all material. And after exhausting, they come down again to Martya Loka. It's right out of the Gita. So they don't get anywhere. This is the position of all karmis, including those who act piously, or those who act impiously, as he points out in the verse that we all chanted together, Nunam Pramatak. They don't go to heaven, they go to hell. Or at best, they just get reborn as some lowly animal, which may come after being in hell for some time. And so that's even a worse situation. So Prabhupada is still glossing the very first word, karmibhya. Okay, so that doesn't get us anywhere. So if one is intelligent enough, he can take from this instruction that, I shouldn't be working so hard for all these fruit of things. But the problem is when you become strongly attached to them, that's the mode of passion, and the mode of passion is going to cover your intelligence. So even though understanding these things, even though theoretically understanding, you're not able to act on them. So as devotees, we are at least at the point of really acting on some of the instructions some of the time. And we can act on all of the instructions all of the time, then we really move forward very quickly. Thus all their activities simply defeat the purpose of life. There it is. And so Prabhupada is quoting here. How far did I get here? I forgot how far I got. We didn't read that paragraph? So that's where we left off. Okay, good. So let's just run through quickly these three verses, beginning with Nunam Pramattak, 4, 5, and 6. There's a whole lesson in there. And it's quoted right in the purport in Bhagavad Gita, those three verses. So Nunam Pramattak kurate bikarma, the one we read, this verse is, materialists work hard like dogs and hogs. The actual verse is, nasaru manye. I don't think it's very good that people are simply working for indriya priti, which is literally sense gratification, and thus performing all the kind of vikarma activities. Their only reference is, how does it increase my sense gratification? Then you have what you have here. You have billionaires accumulating more and more and more and more, because lust leads to greed, kama leads to lobha, and much more than they can ever spend in a lifetime, but they're just addicted to money itself. This is the downward. This is chapter 16 of the Bhagavad Gita. So that's crazy, because they just get another body that produces suffering. So then the second verse in the series really is a verse worth really meditating on. And Prabhupada quotes a couple of words from it at the end of the paragraph we read. Parabhavastavada bodhajata. So, first of all, the yavatavat, pair is, is very instructive. Just like in English, we have just as, similarly, right? Drawing an analogy. You can learn so much from that because that format, something you know, the sun and the sunshine we know about. Then that's an analogy to the Supreme Personality of Godhead emanating all His energies. In this way you can get more knowledge. So yavat tavat, it means as long as you do this, or more commonly, as long as you don't do this, you won't get that. Right? So that's what this is. This verse is structured around two pairs of yavat tavat. Padavabas tavad aboda yato yavan najigyasata atma tattva. That's the first proposition in the verse. Padabhavas means defeat. Defeat means not going back to Godhead, getting another body in the material world. That's defeat. So that long you will get defeat, because tavat means you'll get that. You're going to be defeated. What is that defeat? It's born of ignorance. Abodha jata. Abodha, buddhi, intelligence. But abodha means just the opposite. Jata means janma, born. Born or generated from ignorance, that's where you're performing all these activities, have no reference to Krishna, no reference to devotional service, and are sure to bring you another material birth. So, parabhavasthavadabodha jato yavan najigyasada atma tattva. So, yavan means as long as you do not inquire into atma tattva, the truth of the self, you will remain in ignorance, and as long as you remain in ignorance, you're going to experience birth and death. That's why the Vedanta Sutra says at the very beginning, atato brahma jigyasa. Now, having a human form of life, you should inquire into Brahman. Otherwise, you just suffer like the animals. You waste this precious human life. So that's the first half of the verse. Parabhavastava the bodha jata yavan the jigyasata atma tattvam. As long as you don't inquire into atma tattva, God, the self, all these questions that we deal with every day, you remain in ignorance of the most important things, which is who am I, who is God, what am I my relationship, and therefore you're going to suffer like anything. So it's to your interest to inquire. We're not just spinning, philosophical gossamer here. Then the next part of the verse continues. Yavan kriyas. Now here's yavat tavat again. Yavat kriya. Kriya means food of activity. As long as you, now how does this mechanism work here? Yavat kriyas tavad idam manovai karmatmakam. As long as you perform all of these food of activities, there's an effect on the mind. The mind will remain karmatmaka, meaning it will be filled with all of these desires, unfulfilled desires, fears, all of this stuff. Yavat kriyas tavad idam manomai karmatmakam. By that mind, which is filled with all of these unfulfilled desires and latent karma and everything that everyone's suffering, yena sharira. Yena means by which. Yena sharira bandha. That's how you remain bound up to this material body. Because it's all very logical. During your lifetime, you're working fruitively, you're getting some of those things, you're experiencing some of the results. Oh yeah, it really worked. I got the money, I bought the thing, I enjoyed. Well, all that does is plant another desire in your mind to keep enjoying in a similar way. And ultimately, that becomes impossible because your body gives out or it doesn't work anymore. So you end up with all of these unfulfilled desires. That's called karmatmaka. And that is what, that mind with the unfulfilled desires, that gives you the other body. So it's all of a piece. It's a very illuminating verse, 555. It's worth looking at it in purport. Now the last verse gives the solution. He says, first he summarizes, Evam manak, thus, Evam manak karma vasham payunkte. Karma vasham means impelled by karmic fruit of desires. The mind, the ordinary material mind. Evam manak karma payunkte, avidya atma nupadiyadame, the atma, the soul, covered by ignorance, which avidya, is the situation of most people. So then he gives priti nayavan mahivasudevi. Here we go with yavat tavat again. Priti nayavan mahivasudevi namuchate dehi yogena tavat. Until and unless one develops love for me, Vasudeva. This is Lord Rishabdev speaking. So he's now revealing, he is an incarnation. Until one develops priti for me, Vasudeva, one cannot break out of the bondage to a physical body. Now how does that tie in with everything else? It means that all of these desires for pleasure have to be sublimated, directed toward giving Krishna pleasure. So that's what the love means, the transcendental love, that you're just concerned with giving pleasure to the beloved. Can someone fix this? At 8:30, it's going off now. I don't need that. So that's the solution. That line is so critical, because the mumukshus, those who want liberation, they're trying to get it without love for Vasudeva. It's impossible. So the whole thing is summarized there in that last line. Priti niyavan mai Vasudevi namuchyate dehi yogena tava. Therefore, Prabhupada says, this is the next paragraph which we'll read next time. One should therefore be eager to understand the science of the soul, Atma Tattva. It's right out of the verse. But we've come to 8:30. Is there any discussion on this part so far? You have a question?
Yeah.
Go ahead, shoot.
So, it was speaking about the Vikarmis who are simply out for sense gratification.
Hold it a little bit closer.
Janardhan says this.
Is that far? Is that this?
They can hear you.
Okay. No, it's okay. I don't care. I can hear him. If they can hear him, fine.
Where was I? The Vikarmis, they're working simply for sense gratification without performing any sacrifice. So, not many people are aware
Yes.
of Vedic sacrifices.
Avidya.
Rather than performing them. But I'm curious to know, like, okay, say these people are working for sense gratification, say they do like give charity or something, or they do welfare work or give to their church, what have you. Would that still be considered sacrifice?
Yeah.
So
That counts.
The result wouldn't be the same.
Is it, to try to untangle the mix of karma? At home, the family is pious, and they want to help, and there's so many people, homeless people, and so it's Thursday night, and after dinner, we're all going out. The father and the mother and the three adolescent kids. We're going to go to the food pantry or go to and help serve out food for the homeless people in the wintertime in Minnesota. Okay, so they've got a mix there, but it's after dinner. And what's for dinner? Pot roast, whatever. So they start off with an abominable activity, but then they go and do some charity. So it's all in the mix, But they're not. But the abominable activity also has to be paid for. But on the other side, they're doing something good, so that they'll also get that. But how that works out in detail, only Krishna knows. That's really what's going on. It's rare to find people who are, total sociopaths. You find that in the government, but mostly the average people, the corporate ladder, to climb over, just owning stock. You can imagine, what it's like. You're investing in companies, you don't know what they're doing. Apple, that seems harmless. Is it really harmless? What are they? They're running these factories in China. It's practically like slave labor. People are, committing suicide, and getting the metals to make all this stuff. Actually, it's pretty demonic. The technology is, and then to get rid of it, all of the old technology, we'll send it to Nigeria. You can pay them to take it. It's all kind of poison stuff, and you get, So it's just spread throughout society. But with all of that's going on, that paying taxes, and then the taxes go to buy bombs, that bomb Yemen, children get killed. So all of that it's a very complicated karmic web, but the fact of the matter is that people are, usually they've got some good instincts to help others and so forth. So that's also in the mix. But that's really the importance of being public with Krishna consciousness. Just like so many people, they'll meet one of our devotees out there, and they present, and the very personality of the devotee and how the book is presented, and people, it strikes their heart. There's a certain percentage of people, who respond and take a book. All right, I'll try it. Higher taste. All right, I do want to clean up my diet a little bit. Okay, whatever. But there's some sacrifice, and it's a sacrifice actually for Krishna. The Lakshmi and the whole thing goes, so that's really really great in their bank account. So it's a struggle to try to turn in our own mind and our own activities, our own desires toward Krishna more and more. So it's 100%. And for people in general, to just give them a little 1/10 of 1% to start off their activity, agyata, sukriti, whatever, so that somehow or other they can be saved or start on the path towards salvation. And the society as a whole can only be, be saved if there's really the government changes. Prabhupada was always keen to try to do that. But it's as in so many things, it looks darkest. It looks really dark now. I mean, if you really look at the future of this planet, but it also looked, when Krishna appeared, it was really dark. Jarasandha was up there running things. Kamsa was, the Yadavas, they were all hiding away. So somehow or other, we have faith Krishna can do miracles. And as for us, personally, if we're strict, then we'll get out of this world. At a certain point, and be saved from all of the horror that seems to be imminent. Any other question, comment? Okay. Oh, glory to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Bol.